This podcast is part of the Listen Frederick Podcast Network. To learn more, visit listenfrederick.com.
Well, what's up, everyone? Welcome to One More Beer, this time with Riggs and Jonny, just like the first one. So One More Beer number 2 is starting now. We wanted to put together a few more thoughts this week since NHL Free Agency started on Wednesday. So we're getting together later in the week to discuss some of the moves, good and bad, what we think about them, and such. But before we get to that, we mentioned on episode 100, and if you haven't listened to that yet, please go listen to our milestone episode 100. It's great, great stories, lots of laughs with our buddy Ross. It was an awesome time. During that episode, we mentioned that we are part of the Old Fat Ball Guys Summer Tournament, charity tournament benefiting Platoon 22, a veterans services organization looking to prevent veterans suicide. Please go to ofbghockey.com or beersinthelot.com/charity to find out how you can support the cause. All right, let's get into free agency, Jonny. What do you got?
Kyle Dubas sucks. So I don't mind the Matt Murray deal in terms of like the dollar amount, but like they're going to end up paying him 3.5. Jack Campbell left for 5. And all the things that came out was they sent him a very low ball offer at the beginning of the year, and that was it. So it's kind of like you rode with that guy all year, subtract whatever you want in the playoffs. I thought he did okay. I think it's more they didn't score on Vassy, so whatever.
Right.
But now I get the feeling, because he's hiring, or he brought in more Sioux people. All the people he promoted to assistant GMs are all, let's just say, Kyle Dubas people, not in a bad way. I almost get the sense, and maybe this is just me like spitballing here with you, but like, do you get the sense that Kyle Dubas kind of thinks he's the smartest guy in the room? Like he's seeing something with Matt Murray so he can bring him in, and he let Jack go, and he made the Naz trade at this point. So like there's a lot of stuff that's, let's just call it for what it is. He's essentially attached like the Titanic to his leg at this point, right?
Yeah, I think coaches and GMs in the NHL, they're destined to get fired. So the longer that this goes for Toronto, regardless of what he does, and I said it on the Discord, he's just going through the GM checklist of things that you do as a GM for an NHL club. So he's, signed his big contracts, right, with the big 3. He's now made this big change in the direction in the crease. They've done some things where they decided they needed to be grittier on the back end and in the bottom 6, and he's done some things there. He hasn't fired Sheldon Keefe yet, so he hasn't done his coaching hire fire, which is probably the last straw for him. So I think he only has 2 things left on that checklist. Hire fire Sheldon Keefe and then get fired himself at this point, unless they make it to a conference final or a Stanley Cup final and have some success. Then he'll kind of ride that out until the team is not very good anymore. So I don't know. I don't know about his ego. I think he is definitely one of the GMs that was at the forefront of the analytics revolution over the last 5-10 years. That's certain. You mentioned he's bringing in more of his buddies from the Sioux, where he had success. Definitely pushing analytics and how they were building the team there and how they were playing and how they were training and all that good stuff. I don't know about all that.
Well, and I guess too, like tie it into kind of let's just say the Jonny Hockey, kind of contract in Columbus, where unfortunately, it was something I think Calgary never had, because they offered him everything. They gave him the max money in 8 years and whatnot, and he clearly wanted to go back east. I know his wife, I think she's from the Philly area as well. I know Jonny Hockey's from the Philly area, so he clearly wanted to go back to the East Coast. And he ended up in almost, the heartland of America in Columbus, Ohio. That's interesting because a few years ago, Stamkos ended up staying, in Tampa. Turned out all right for him. JT left the Islanders after a kind of long courtship where it was him and Haw, and he left for nothing. And now Jonny Hockey left for nothing. So you got to think, okay, Austin, Nylander, and Mitch Marner all have... Mitch has 3 years left on his deal. Nylander and Austin have 2.
Right.
This season's going to burn up one of those years. So what, I'm kind of intrigued now. Did they just walk for nothing, or does Kyle have to really start looking at that seriously? I'm willing to bet with Austin Matthews, they're going to lay some groundwork with his agent, or at least kind of get a gauge on where he's at, because you don't want him to leave for nothing, obviously. And, the Jonny Hockey situation, clearly, we saw, it wasn't about money. I like the fact, as a Pittsburgh fan, I hate Columbus because they always play really well. But Columbus, I'm wow, have a day. That's awesome. Now it's almost you could almost call there are going to be guys running around going I want to play with Jonny Hockey in Columbus.
Oh, absolutely.
And and you think Columbus, it's not that bad of a travel schedule compared to what it would be out west or even in Calgary, obviously. So that's going to be easier. I was kind of shocked Columbus. I didn't even hear Columbus. It was more Philly. They couldn't do anything with the cap space. Jersey, there were rumblings about Jersey, but I was kind of Jersey. I feel he wants to get in the playoffs. Columbus could be interesting because they have some pieces there already, and the goaltending's never been an issue in Columbus. Almost like how it has been for a billion years in Nashville. Goaltending and defense was never their problem. It's always scoring goals. Jonny Hockey just solved that, because he's going to make everybody he plays with better in general. So that's cool. And tell me about the Caps, Riggs. What happened with them?
So I actually like a lot of the moves, because I don't want to talk about Darcy Kemper yet. We'll talk about that in a second.
I like Connor Brown.
I like Connor Brown. I like giving Matt Irwin some more time. So they made a lot of moves that weren't the flashy sort of, highly rated free agent signing. They just kind of got some solid players locked up for some time. I actually really like giving Marcus Johansson another year to kind of shore up the bottom six. I think that's a good deal.
That one almost feels like we're getting the band back together a little bit.
Maybe
a little bit.
I don't know. If they were going to do that, they would have sold the farm and gone after Burakovsky, right?
True. Yeah, I agree.
That kind of thing. And there was a thought in the back of my mind that they were going to make a move on him, just because of that reason. So the goalie situation, I'm actually pretty happy about as a fan. If you just go by some of the individual numbers, Darcy Kemper is absolutely an upgrade against Ilya Samsonov and Vitek Vanacek, who were both sub 900 save percentage goalies last season. Now you could say, well, that's because Kemper played for the Colorado Avalanche, who are possession dynamos and they don't let you have the puck. Well, if we go look at high danger save percentage, Kemper's numbers are very good. They're in the mid 800s, where Samsonov and Vanacek were below 800. You're definitely getting an upgrade in the starter's crease. And then they went and got Charlie Lindgren, and I don't mind that to be the backup, but the question is going to be, can Kemper handle the workload? Because he's basically going to have to start all but maybe a dozen games in a regular season. And this is on a team that, again, their top six is aging. Their top six is also starting to have some critical injuries where they're going to be out for a long time. I mean, Wilson's going to be out for a while. We talked about Backstrom in episode 100, where he may not even play again ever. With all that going on, are you throwing Kemper into a situation where now he's really got to carry a bulk of the workload for a team that may not be able to support him as well?
Yeah, and the only issue I ever had with Kemper, and it's nothing against him, and is because like some of the numbers are there for him, like the high danger, save percentage, and a few other numbers. You're like, wow, that there's a decent goaltending here, and even when he was in Arizona. But the thing that like I keep thinking about, and I brought it up a few times in Discord, and I've said it, like Colorado was able to overcome somewhat average goaltending, and you hear a lot of the pundits out there like, well, if Darcy Kemper can win a cup in Colorado, it's like, all right, I get it. But like, I'm not saying like any of the goalies we play with could have played for Colorado. And I'm not saying even half of the NHL goalies in the NHL could have played for Colorado and the same result would have happened. But Colorado was able to like mask up or cover up or adjust for a lot of the, let's just call it average, that Darcy Kemper was last year.
I mean,
Francouz as well, but still, like he played a little better, I think.
Yeah, his numbers were a little bit better in more limited time, right? But Kemper in the regular season, in 57 games, he posted a 9.21.
Yeah, he was totally fine.
Which, if you look at the averages, if your goalie is above a 9.10, on average, you're going to win the game if you could score a couple goals. So, he's a starter. And I've said it before. I said it during the playoff run for Colorado and everything. He's a legit starter. Yes, was he a weakness on that Colorado team? Absolutely. So now he's going to a team that is not as strong and is not as young and not as fast and doesn't play a very good possession game. His workload's going to go up, both in quantity of minutes in games that he has to play because of the guy behind him, and in the number of shots that he's going to face. So that would be my concern, right? Is as that volume goes up in opposition shots, how is he going to respond? Now, purely from like a I don't know, like a psychological standpoint or a personal standpoint, he, in his media availability, he's very happy. He's very happy to get a long-term deal, which he has not had in his career in the NHL, right? So now he's got some stability. He can be in DC for 5 years. He can move here. He can live here, and all of that good stuff. Maybe that goes a long way for him. Maybe that helps him elevate because he has that stability from a personal life standpoint. I don't know. I mean, that's all speculation.
Yeah, and the East is somewhat, I'm not saying it's open, but it's kind of like the Wild West a little bit. Like, I mean, we could say Tampa. You really could, because I mean, they still have Vasi and a good chunk of the core. I mean, they let some guys go, but they're going to be fine. They'll figure it out. But like the rest of the teams, I mean, there's a lot of teams in flux. Like,
so at the end of the day, though, up in Pittsburgh, Malkin got the 4-year, $6 million.
Freaking baby.
After we went off about it for about 45 minutes on our last episode.
Well, I was kind of aggravated with the whole Malkin thing because, like, I find it apparently that 4-year deal was on the table on Sunday, and he was leaking all. And that's the other thing. I don't know if it was the agent just doing it for kind of like fan sympathy or support, and also you never know if it's like true or not. Like, it's reported, but like who freaking knows? No one knows.
Right.
And that whole like, oh, they don't think I'm good enough. Oh, and then he ends up signing, and it's like, okay, like, great. Why'd we even have to go through this freaking dance? Like he waited till, what was it, like 11:50 on, it was Tuesday night.
Yeah.
So like, whatever. I'm glad he signed, but also at the same time, kind of like, I don't see him being a cup contender. I hate saying that with Gino, Sid, and Carter. I mean, stuff could happen. I fully am fine with it. I like the Jan Ruda pickup, like a decent big body to play in our decor. I like Drake Kajula, who they bought in for the bottom six, and Josh Archibald. I'm fine with those guys. The Ricard Raquel, I thought it was a lot of money for a guy who's like hasn't been healthy a lot, but like whatever. I kind of get what they're trying to do. Like they're trying to just maximize what they got, and I'm fine with that. But like I also kind of think I'm like, they do have like 9 or 10 million free next year they could kind of spend, so that'll be good. And also P.O. Joseph, like he seems to now have earned a roster spot by de facto, which I was kind of like, we got to figure out what we're going to do with this guy. Like it's ridiculous.
Yeah, but it's great he's going to play, but I hate that for young players where
it's by default. He didn't technically
God,
yeah.
Like why not just play him? Why not just give, like, all right, it's time. Like, come on, here we go.
And now they have to potentially move a defenseman because there's going to be a log jam. So I'm kind of like, all right, now we got to move like a defenseman or two and see what happens. But like, what's your return? You're going to end up getting draft picks because you don't really want a roster player at this point because forwards, you're pretty locked in. I would love to see him get rid of Jason Zucker, but like whatever.
Yeah.
Because he just hasn't been healthy. That's the thing with Jason Zucker. It's nothing. When he plays, he's effective. He doesn't put up points, but he's effective. So like whatever. But
he plays well with Malkin. Like those two seem to have a thing.
He does. My only issue with Zucker is it's 5.5.
Yeah,
you're eating up a lot of cap space for a cat that's not putting up points.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Edmonton, like Evander Kane, actually has a less on the table on his AEV than Jason Zucker, and at least Evander Kane puts up points. I will say that. I hate Evander Kane, but like whatever. But also the big news in Edmonton, they got Jack Campbell. Thank God.
That's huge.
I'm
huge
happy
for them.
I'm more happy for Jack Campbell.
I'm happy for Connor McDavid.
Do you think he like just like lit a cigar and like had a cocktail yesterday and just put his feet up?
No, he's training. I saw a video on the Instagram of him doing stick handling on the ice. He's training. He's not drinking right now.
Oh, I would have had a pop yesterday. I absolutely would have had a pop. But that's the thing. Like at least like kind of funny. Remember like last year we were like, man, Kyle Dubas is doing great, and then we're like, Ken Holland's fucking up. And now this year we're kind of like, man, Ken Holland, look at you, bud. Like, way to go, dude.
Hold on, though. It took him 3 years to get there, right?
And he also kind of got a little bit lucky because Duncan Keith retired. It looks like Mike Smith's going to be on LTIR. The Evander Kane thing, I think no one was going to give him the payday he was looking for, just with the...
They don't want the baggage, man.
Amount of baggage. And I do think it's interesting they gave him a 4-year deal. Like, I'm kind of like, I'm willing to bet there are teams that are probably like, we'll give you a 1-year deal. You can be on your best behavior and see.
Yeah.
But good for Jack Campbell. I was also happy to see the Flyers got like a Flyers player in Nick Delorier. I was like, okay. Like, I hate saying that, but I'm like, the Flyers actually like kind of did something on brand here. Like, you want to get tougher to play against. They got a John Tortorella player, but also like Nick Delorier, like, cool. Like, this is a Flyers player. I'm like, wow, they actually look like they're doing something here. And they got Tony DeAngelo, but fart sound, like whatever.
I think they got way worse than they were last year.
Oh yeah, definitely. Carolina got Brent Burns. That I don't know about that.
And Pacioretty for nothing.
Nothing, because Vegas was over the cap. And that kills me with Vegas because it's like you're trading away somebody who is always going to get 20 goals every year. You could pen him in, not pencil. You can use ink. Like, he's always going to get 20.
The way I look at it is Carolina is going nuclear, picking up all these guys, trying to go for it. And I don't know what the rest of their situation is contract-wise with players next year, but they're definitely going for it this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Because they got Freddie, Freddie will be healthy and
He's fine. Yeah.
he'll be fine. Defense, they're still fine. And actually, Brent Burns had 50 some points last year on a really bad San Jose team. Brent Burns is like, he's kind of a mutant. He like trains like he's a psycho. He does like marathons and biking and swimming because he's like, oh, all those sports, it's like mental toughness and you got to build a big engine. And he's great. Like I like Brent Burns. I think he's cool. I'm actually kind of excited to see him out east. Yeah.
He's one of those players that's going to be good until he's like 50 years old. He's just going to keep playing. He's just going to be solid 50, 60 points a year until he's like 50 years old.
Yeah. Skates well, smart, booming shot. Like, I mean, especially him too. Like he could help out some of their power play woes they had.
Absolutely.
Like kind of like he can get pucks through for the point, but also can set guys up. Like that'll be cool. Like good for them.
And he's one of these players. He's one of these defensemen that plays the entire ice surface too. That's very evident on the power play where he will like drop down low and then come back up high. He'll be in front of the net. He's all over the place. So it could definitely help them.
And
if Rod the Bod knows how to use them.
Yeah. And the one thing I like about Brent Burns, he's trying to think of like a defenseman comparable. The only one I could do is like a like a younger PK Subban before some of the injuries. He can play tough. He can play a fast game. He can kind of play in front of the net, just kind of mixing up in the corner. Brent Burns can, like you said, he can play every type of game all over the ice. It doesn't matter.
Absolutely.
PK Subban still a free agent. We'll see what happens with that. I like PK, but I know we kind of joked like maybe he moves to media. That'd be kind of cool.
I mean, he speaks well. He's got a great personality.
He's already made $1 bazillion.
He's close to the modern game and the modern players. We always rail on like the old heads like Messier and Chelios, right? Like on the ESPN. Like PK Subban has played the modern game and played very well. I've always liked him, like you said. So he would be a good analyst for sure. Depends on where he's at in his career, though. Maybe he thinks he still has it and wants to go get a cup, but who knows? You know who else is available?
Phil the Thrill,
Nazem Kadri.
Well, Naz, yeah. As of us talking, and when are we? Thursday morning. Naz is still waiting, so that'll be. And that's the thing. I don't know where he signs now.
Yeah, maybe all the chess pieces are in place, right? And the only spot he has left is to stay with Colorado.
I don't know if they have the dollars though.
How does that work, right? Yeah, exactly.
You could sign in Columbus. I think they still have quite a bit of cap space.
Could sign in Arizona.
Yeah, they still got to hit the cap floor. Weird. I saw speaking of like, teams that have like a bunch of draft picks, I saw Slafosky on the ice with Poulin kind of for the Canadians development. That was kind of cool. I saw in Seattle, Jesse Campbell, the assistant coach for the Coachella Firebirds. She was on the ice, and Shane Wright's in Warrior gear. Ugh. No wonder you drop Bud. Yeah.
Brutal.
Like Cooley was in CCM and Slafosky was in Bauer, so I was fine with that.
Yeah.
So I'm fine. I'm fair with those choices. But Warrior, like, get out of here, dude. Like, no wonder you drop Bud. Like, God.
On that note, we'll wrap up One More Beer number 2 here. Thanks for listening. Jonny, do you have anything to say to everyone before we cut the show here?
I wouldn't be floored if some trades are still going to happen. I would love to see Phil go to a team we like for a change.
I love it.
Yeah, Phil the Thrill, book him anywhere on the East Coast.
I love it. Phil the Thrill Kessel, you heard it here first, is going to go to a team that we like.
Yeah, hopefully.
All right. Thanks, everyone, for listening to One More Beer bonus episode of Beers in the Lot. See ya.